All right, in this video, we're going to be covering one of the most important techniques in all of martial arts. It's called the walking stance. And I know that seems very simple because you just think about walking down the street. But when we walk as a martial artist, we kind of have to start over and learn how to walk again. Most people, when they walk, allow their toes to turn out. They're kind of pushing with the side of their feet. If you ever look at footprints in sand or in wet grass or mud, you'll see that the toes of most people's feet are turned out. Well, that's fine for just relaxed walking. It keeps some stability in there. That's great. But it also exposes our knees to being attacked from the inside if we walk like that in a fight. It also turns our force to go toward the outside one way or the other. Instead, when we're trying to produce good force toward our target, we want our toes to aim forward. Secondly, we don't want our toes aimed out because that exposes the knee, and we don't want that to happen. So, in a walking stance, if you start from your Chumbi stance, your feet should be approximately shoulder width apart. Your toes should be aimed straight forward, like you've got lasers in your toes and you want to drill straight holes, okay? You don't want crisscross holes here. Your body is centered between your hips. You're going to take a normal walking step forward. That means you're not trying to take a big step or an unusually small step. A normal walking step forward. Boom. Now, what you're going to immediately notice is that your toes try to creep out and your front knee bends and your back leg locks. Those things have to shift a little bit. Both knees should be slightly bent. Toes should both be aimed straight forward in the direction of travel. Your hips should be centered between your feet, not forward, not back. Let me show you that from the side. I don't want my hips forward and my head out in front of my hips. I want my head to sit directly on top of my hips with my rear tucked, my back nice and straight, my core tight, but not too tight. Okay, I'm not trying to do a crunch here. I just want to keep everything supported. Now, my toes are forward and my body is erect. From here, if I'm doing this in a Pomse, my hands may need to be on my hips or they may need to be in a guarded position. Oh, look, it's a fighting stance. Who knew, right? So from here, if I want to step forward, I now have to take my rear foot, bring it in. This is called a C-step. And then back out to the same width. I don't want to step wider or end up with my feet in line with each other. If my feet start to drift closer and closer and closer together, then I become more and more unstable. If my feet get farther and farther and farther apart, then I become slower and slower and slower. So instead, I want to maintain that shoulder width. My hands are up in this particular case, so I step, heel, toe. Step, heel, toe. Check your width, make sure that you're balanced between your legs. Now, if you go backwards, the same thing happens except that you're going to go toe, heel. So I'm going to go back, C-step again. Imagine yourself going back to that Chumbi stance width, out, toe, heel. Weight doesn't shift back into that back leg. It stays centered. Step, heel, toe. And there is your walking stance. Both knees bent, weight centered, body up, head and eyes forward, hands either in a guarding position or on your hips depending on the application. Make sure you take a lot of time to practice that because your natural instinct is going to be to walk normally with the toes splayed out. All right, guys, that is your walking stance. Practice hard.